Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai declared that his administration will not negotiate with or grant amnesty to bandits.
Well, the governor spoke during a visit to some communities in Igabi and Giwa local government areas of the state, which were invaded by gunmen on Sunday. Over 50 people were said to have been killed during these attacks.
The governor said, quote, that in Kaduna State, we don't give bandit amnesty and we don't negotiate with them. It's our duty to wipe them until we send them to their maker. The security agencies are taking the war to the forest and we're eliminating them, end of quote. The governor called on the people to continue to be patient and vigilant and continue to forgive them where they have failed to protect them.
Well, joining us now from our Abuja studios to analyze the recent Kaduna attacks by bandits is Terrence Kuanum, a security expert and field researcher with Global Amnesty Watch. Thank you so much, Mr. Kuanum, for joining us again this morning. Great to see you. Let me begin by asking you, when you hear the word bandits, does this level of destruction that we saw in Goa and Igabi local government areas of Kaduna State on Sunday come to mind? Do you think that we are understanding properly the factionalization of Boko Haram terrorism in the northeast of Nigeria? Is it possible that these bandits we refer to are, elements of Boko Haram? And, what exactly is the roots of banditry in the northern part of Nigeria?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, bandits are not actually a faction of Boko Haram. Bandits are the armed Fulani militia group that felt that the vigilantes in the northwest, instead of protecting their businesses, were rather rustling their cows. And they came back to attack the people that were rustling their cow. So it was, banditry came about the difference that existed between the vigilante security and the herders that were in the northwest. At the beginning of this bandit issue, government had made efforts to solve the problem. They were called to a round table and they gave government conditions that they don't want to coexist again with the communities in the northwest. So the schools for their children should be built on the grazing routes. If we go to some places like Zamfara and Katsina in the northwest, those schools have already been built, which have now been converted to camps where the bandits are staying. So they had made efforts at the beginning to be able to curb their activities, but criminal elements among them pushed it to the level that we have today. So these bandits are not factions of Boko Haram. They came about, it was the issue of rustling that brought them into power. And the issues of attacks in Kaduna State, if we look at the location of Giwa, Igabi, and Birnin-Gwari, they are along the vast forests that traverse between Kaduna, Zamfara, Katsina, up to Niger Republic. So it's a very thick forest, and where they were occupying roads, blocking roads and kidnapping people in Birnin-Gwari on Abuja Kaduna Road and other places in Kaduna, the security forces have been able to push them to the forest. I think what actually caused these attacks were that they felt suspicious that the way the security are discovering their hideouts could possibly be that the villagers have been giving intel to the security to be able to nab them down, and that was why they came for a revenge attack. It's quite unfortunate. We always advise citizens to be aware that at any time these criminal elements are pushed to the wall, when they come out, they are more dangerous. So if the security forces are pushing them to a particular hole, we should, as citizens, also be very careful, because they will want to always come out and make a statement for people to feel that they are still strong, they are still waxing, and they are not being weakened by the efforts of the security forces. It was a very unfortunate situation. We commend the stand of the Kaduna State government not to negotiate with them, because we know that with the efforts so far made by the security agents, wherever they are hiding, they will be discovered and dealt with.
Okay, Terrence, we commend the efforts of the Kaduna State governor not to negotiate with them, but people are dying. We don't commend the effort of the Zamfara State government. Yeah, hang on a minute. Terrence, hang on a minute. Terrence, please hang on a minute. We don't commend the effort of the Zamfara State government to negotiate with them, But it looks as though it worked.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. We don't commend the effort of the Zamfara State government to negotiate with bandits, but it looks as though it worked.
Follow the history of this banditry. You know that at a point, sometime last year, they took over the entire Northwest. That no road in the Northwest was safe at a point. They have now been pushed off from these places they had occupied to that particular forest. It's a very thick forest, it's very huge, that traverses so many states, even across the border. And that is why it is difficult to just go in and finish them at a point. And we feel that negotiating with these bandits will give them more courage and will encourage more people. Because recruiting people for this for these activities in the north has become an ideological thing. They use issues of religion most times to recruit people for this. So if you go negotiating with them, some people that even registered their advances to join them might feel that it is worthwhile, so might join them. So that is why we commend the stand of the Kaduna State government not to negotiate with them. And when you're fighting issues of insurgency, issues of gross insecurities to this extent, we always know that there will be casualty. And that is why at every time we are discussing these issues of attack, we also focus on citizens to caution them on how they operate within this crisis area so that there will be minimum casualty and then most of them will be safe. Because if we look at the attacks that are taking place at the moment, there are these lone wolf attacks which insurgency history and terrorism history all over the world globally has to deal with all of this. So we feel that our citizens have to come now together, be united, and cooperate with the security agencies so that they can be able to stay safe while these people are being attacked to be eliminated.
Okay, Mr. Kuanum, you've spoken about people cooperating with the security on ground. However, you've also confirmed that this assault was a retaliation as a result of the information that these people were giving the security experts. And if we look at this against the backdrop of regional community policing that has been making the rounds, if we can't protect the people when they help security personnel, how are we going to give them confidence so that they can continue to gather intelligence for them?
Yeah, gathering of intel is work in progress because the people we are expecting intel for the security peoples to be able to operate now, you and I know, are not trained into intel. And sometimes the excitement that they gave an intel and security went there and actually executed the proper district could bring an excitement that there will be discussions that these people will hear. And that is why it's a work in process. I know that with the leak intel that have brought about this attack, I think security forces will be able to also go back to the communities and be able to discuss with them how they'll be able to manage these intels, and this kind of attack will not come up again. Managing intel is very difficult, and we are in a very sensitive stage of this crisis now where intel is key because most of them have assimilated themselves into communities and you will not know. And they will be moving with you. You will not know that you are with a bandit, and most of them are armed. So we need to generally be careful around these crisis areas, the way the discussions and the information we give out, because we are moving with them. They are part of the society at the moment.
Mr. Kuanum, we'll come back after this break to talk some more about the premium we'll place on informants and the synergy between security agencies and community leaders. Stay with us. We'll go on a quick break, and I'll be right back with the Morning Show. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. We're still discussing security, especially in Kaduna State, where there was that dastardly attack on Sunday, killing 51 people. Terrence Kuanum, a security expert and field researcher with Global Amnesty Watch, is discussing this with us. Thank you so much for staying with us, Mr. Kuanum. Let me ask you again, because my colleague Shaitan had asked you earlier, a follow-up to what you said. If this is a reprisal attack for giving information to security agencies in Igabi and Goa local government areas. Does it not call to question the level of premium we place on informants who should help with intelligence gathering and information sharing in this fight? Secondly, I want to ask you, because the federal government had multiple times now blamed or accused or fingered community leaders in this attacks, violent attacks across the north. What are you picking up from that end? To what extent are these community leaders complicit in these attacks that we are seeing?
Yeah, the issue of community leaders was very fundamental because these bandits are citizens of those communities and they've been shielded by most of these communities. Some because they are afraid of the bandits coming to attack them. Some because of the royalties the bandits pay to them. And because most of these kidnappings and most of these hostage they were taking them to those communities and nobody gave out information to security people. So the confrontation of the government on the traditional institutions in those places was quite commendable, and it has drastically reduced, and there is now cooperation in most of the communities now with the government. The issue of intel, like I told you, that managing of intel is a process, and most of the people the security agencies are expecting to get intel from them are not just they are not people who are trained in intel. So it's a process that they need to be speaking with, enlightened and informed properly on how to manage the intel they give to the security so that it will not be leaked and then people will come attacking them. Another issue that is brewing up in the north in the last 2 weeks is the provocative statements that have been made by some organizations in the name of protecting their businesses. If you could recall, last week, the Miati Allah group came out to make a statement that they were going to form an armed group to protect their people because of the regional security that have been formed, like Amatukun, and then the IG moving around the regions to form a security. Now, if you come to central Nigeria and the southern part of Kaduna, Plateau, Benue, and you see influx of cattle have started coming in because most of these herders feel that that statement has given them audacity enough to be able to move. And you know, when they move at that level, insecurity always arises because they are going to move into people's farms and it becomes a crisis. So we feel that security agencies also should be able to call those kind of leadership and persons to order so that we will not be able to have another crisis on our hand. It's unfortunate that citizens are not being careful the way they are conducting themselves in the name of protecting businesses with what we have on our hands, because there are a lot of criminal elements that have come together to synergize and be together. So any provocative statement might provoke a crisis that we might not be able to handle in our hands. So by and large, the security forces that are doing their best. The people that are giving intel at the moment are also doing their best. That we have been able to push these people to certain places that, if properly managed, we can be able to end this once and for all.
The community leaders, the second half of my question, the federal government has blamed community leaders multiple times. I said, what are you picking up from that end? To what extent are they complicit?
Yeah, I told you, I first started by saying that in time past, there were community leaders that colluded with these criminal elements. One, by kidnapping people to come and keep in their communities and then keeping silent and harboring them in their communities without giving information to the security people. Most of these community leaders and the traditional rulers were confronted by government. Some were dethroned, some were arrested and persecuted. So at the moment as we are speaking, I told you that the thing has come down to a certain level that there is cooperation between those communities and the security personnel now. And that is why the security people have been able to make a lot of inroads in the last few months, pushing these people to particular places that they can be able to, if possible, surrender and manage the situation properly, so that they would not be in the communities. They are in the forest, and in the forest, it means that the only casualty can only be them. So it is better managed at that level.
Okay, Terrence, real quickly, how has the proliferation of small arms increase the activities of the bandits in this region?
Yeah, it is a situation we did not manage in time past properly that has come to meet us. But I think with the closure of borders, it has reduced to a certain level, but it cannot all. It has not always. Already there were a lot of arms in the hands of criminals. So I think arresting them in their numbers will be able to get some of those arms back to the hands of government. But the closure of the borders has helped a little bit. They are not just coming the way they used to do in time past. So we feel that with time it will be controlled. And if we elongate the issue of closure of border for a while, and then the way we have been able to hold them in certain locations at the moment, we know that in the places they were staying earlier, in the cities, they have left some of those arms. So if those places are cool and those arms are picked, and then they are held in the forest, I think a lot of arms will be in the hands of government, and that will bring a little succor to the people.
Okay, very quickly before we wrap up, but for the intervention by the security personnel on land and on air, we know that the situation would have been worse, would have lost more than 50 lives there. However, what else can the Army as well as the Air Force be looking at to make sure that next time those numbers are fewer?
Yeah, this kind of lone wolf attacks are not attacks you can anticipate. People have been pushed away from the communities they were living. They are in the bush, and you are with them in the bush. That is why we are saying that the role of citizens is much more important. If you are in a community and then you see strange faces, you don't just ignore them. You create an alert. For them to have come in the communities that night and cause that kind of an attack, I know they come in their hundreds, and most of these attacks, we see a lot of people dying and houses. Most of these attacks are taking place in less than 30 minutes, 1 hour, and you see them run back to their hiding places. So they are not things you anticipate. There's surveillance in those places, and you know that there's a lot on the hands of security agencies as the Birinigwari forest is there. You know that there is another Sambisa forest in Maiduguri that is also being manned by these security personnel. And then there's the Kanji forest, there's the Thick forest, another one by the Lake Chad. So there are a lot of crises. And if you come to the Middle Belt, there are issues there of Fulani herders. If you go to the Southwest, so these things are all over. It's the role of community to give interest on time so that these agencies will be able to come in quickly and attend to them.
Okay.
So the role of the citizen at this moment is very key.
Indeed. In 40 seconds, if you can, Terrence, let me ask you, because we report this incident so much. We talk about how to prevent them from recurring, but we do not talk so much about arrest and prosecution. To what extent is that important in ending this fight against banditry or terrorism?
Yeah, there have been so many arrests. If we go to prisons across the north, there have been so many arrests that have been made. Thousands of arrests have been made. In fact, by ending of last year, the Cari led anti-terrorism group alone had arrested people into thousands just within the northwest. So there are a lot of arrests that have been made. I told you that there are a lot of arms that have also been recovered. But you cannot arrest. The issue is the recruiting process of those people is also an issue they need to look about, because the more you are making arrests, the more they are recruiting. Because there are a lot of vulnerable people they are recruiting in the name of religion and all that for them to fight most of these causes.
That's a very scary...
So even the religious leaders will have a role to play in this issue.
I do agree. A very scary situation you paint. Thank you so much, Terrence Kuanum, for being on the show this morning. And that brings us to the end of the show today. I am Adesua Omoran.
I'm Rufai Oseni.
And I'm Shaitan Atigari. Thank you so much for watching. You can also follow us on all our social media handles showing now on the screen, with live streaming, of course, on arise.tv.